Everyone, I'm Larrynnee Pierre from the Dallas, Texas area, and today I will be discussing how to handle the work environment, what to expect, and what things you need to ask for. So, you were pregnant and working, you've had your baby, you went on maternity leave, and you've begun this breastfeeding journey, but now it's time to get back to work. So, what things do you need to ask for in order to make your breastfeeding journey a successful one? One, pumping. Speak to HR and let them know that you need to pump at least 2 to 3 times a day. And within your 8 hour shift, that's about every 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 times a day. Number two, time. Let them know that from setting up, pumping, to breaking down and cleaning your parts, you need about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And let them know that these breaks are not the same as your lunch breaks. And again, 2 to 3 times a day. The third thing is storage. Make sure that there is adequate space within your company's break room, refrigerator, or even a private refrigerator for you to store your milk and keep it as cool as possible throughout the day, and also keep your ice packs frozen throughout the day. I found that the ice packs that Medela makes are really useful. They stay cool and frozen for a while, and they're really adequate if you decide to leave your milk in bottles or if you decide to put them in bags. If you go into the break room and you determine that the fridge is too dirty to store your milk in, either have it clean or if it's not that deep, clean it yourself. Also, I would suggest bringing baking soda boxes to keep the smells from getting to your milk. And lastly, but not necessarily least, is the space. Make sure that there's a designated mother's room or even a private office that is able to be locked that they can designate and make available to you when you need to go and pump. Um, you may have this, designated when it's on a schedule. If there's other working moms that are breastfeeding in the same office, or it just may be something that is specific to you that your workplace has made available for you. So, with all of those things, if you ask, you will get them and be able to have a successful breastfeeding journey. And you ask, well, what backing do I have? How can I legitimize this request? Well, you are covered by the Break Time for Nursing Mothers law, which was passed in 2010. And basically, what this law does is cover all the things that I just stated about your ability to pump, having storage, also the time and the designated space that you need to do so. And please keep in mind that a designated private area is not a bathroom. That is not acceptable. It needs to be anything other than a bathroom. You would not feed or prepare your food in a bathroom as an adult, so the same should not be expected of you and your child when it comes to breastfeeding as well as pumping milk. So, some of the other things I wanted to share about this law that is a common misconception is that it's only for employers that have 50 employees or more, and that's not true. So unless your employer, who is a small business, has applied for a a financial undue stress type of thing where they say, well, we can't afford to accommodate this employee and their need to breastfeed or their need to pump while they're on the job, unless they apply for that and they're approved for it, they still have to follow the law. So don't be moved by someone saying that they can't do it, especially if it's a large employer. But if it's your small employer, they have to go through certain steps in order to legitimize that type of claim. Otherwise, they must follow that law and accommodate you. So I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience. I've been breastfeeding since 2015, and I have two children now, two daughters. One is currently 4 and the other is 18 months, and I'm still breastfeeding. So for my first child, I actually was working as a federal employee and I had my own private office. So it was very easy to just, designate on my calendar that I was going to be pumping and to close the door and maybe put a sign on my door. But I had had the conversation with HR as well as with my managers at the time. So they were more than understanding of that. So that was easy. But when I left federal employment, I went on to public accounting and I was in audit. For my first environment, wasn't necessarily the best as far as being family friendly because I was the only person in my office that was not male and that was a parent. And on top of that, very early in my breastfeeding journey. So I had to ask for those things that I just mentioned as far as, what's covered by the Break Time for Nursing Mothers law, and make sure that I could be accommodated. And I was. It wasn't, such a big deal. You have not because you ask not. So I asked and I got it. But what made it difficult was that in audit, you're traveling a lot, and also you're going on different client sites. So it was to a point where I learned that instead of getting to the client site and trying to see if they had anything, I jumped the ball early and made sure that it was included in the engagement letter and say, hey, one of our employees needs an area to pump and to store her milk. And that's the way we got it, because they have to accommodate you while you're working on site. So that's something to consider if you're in that type of environment. Also, some firms and some companies are really good about, if you travel a lot, they may accommodate you by paying for shipping for your milk, so supplying dry ice and things of that nature. But if you decide that you want to keep it on you, or they don't have that type of accommodation, again, storage is really important. Make sure that you're able to keep your ice packs cold, and if it's an extended trip, it will be probably beneficial to freeze your milk and then take it back with you, so that way you're ensuring that as you travel back and forth and to make it from the workplace to home, you can get everything that you need back, and without affecting or spoiling your milk. Moving from public accounting, from audit, I went into a consulting role, and I was in the office. And one of my offices actually had a designated mother's room. So again, I was good to go there, but I did have to make sure that, that I asked permission and that it was actually available. And this office was more family friendly, so I wasn't the only breastfeeding mother. So as I mentioned earlier, you have to go and, maybe have it on a calendar to where you're setting it up in Outlook to get that room reserved just for you. So, and then moving on to my current position, they actually had it in their workbook that there would be space and time for nursing mothers. And again, I just happened to be the only one, so I inquired about it, and immediately they designated an office with a lock on it for me. Storage was plenty, and there was no issue there, so I didn't have to worry about that. But again, keep the space clean, keep your parts clean, and just ask what you need for as far as the time to pump and the frequency, which again is 2 to 3 times a day. That should be every 2 to 3 hours, and this helps to maintain your supply. And then of course, when you're home and you're off and you're with the baby, just latch on and nurse as much as possible to maintain that supply and to maintain that nursing relationship. Ladies, that's all I have. Ain't got no more. Enjoy yourself and be successful on your breastfeeding journey. Happy Black Breastfeeding Week, and happy National Breastfeeding Month.